All right, good morning, traders. Today is June 30th, 2025. My name is John Carignan. I am the lead instructor here at the BYOB Trading Room. Let's go take a look at some charts this morning. Actually, let's go ahead and do the monologue. Check that out. See what they got going on from what happened on Friday. All right, thank you for being here. My SPY pivot this morning is 613.30. Above it, I'm a bull. Below it, I'm a bear. All of the Fab 5 are in daily uptrends. All made higher lows and higher highs, closing over their bullish traps over their 17 EMAs. SPY closed with a 2-hour uptrend and a 10-minute uptrend. Gold started a new downtrend on Friday. Gold made a lower high and a lower low, closing under a bearish trap under the 17. Silver, still in a daily uptrend, made a lower high and a lower low, closing over a bearish cross over its 17 EMA. USO in a daily uptrend. USO made a lower high and a lower low, closing under a bearish trap under the 17. UNG now in a daily downtrend, made a higher high and a higher low, closing over a bearish trap under the 17. US dollar index closed near the 97.34 area, looking for a breakdown to the downside. Still in a downtrend. We love that. SPY max paying 598 today with a put to call ratio of about 1.7 puts for each call that expires today at 4:15. All right, let's go take a look at some charts this morning. We'll start off with 10-minute chart of the SPY coming in yesterday, 10-minute uptrend. Notice the 3 EMA up over the 8 EMA, big candle, almost looking like an exhaustion candle. But then we got this gap up here this morning. So 10-minute uptrend coming into the close. I'd look for a continuation of that uptrend. In other words, I'd be looking for a decent green candle. Nothing with a topping wick. In other words, if it's got more wick than body and tail, I'm not interested in that candle. And if it is a little doji like this, I'm not interested in that candle because that shows me that buyers and sellers agree on the price. I don't want a spinning top because that shows me buyers and sellers agree on the price. And I certainly don't want to go long when the bears have control of the candle, all right? So I'm looking for a green candle. I'm looking for continuation of the 10-minute uptrend. I don't want a doji. I don't want a spinning top. And I don't want a red candle that shows me bearish control. Again, if I've got a green candle with way more wick than body and tail, not interested in that either. That's showing me bearish control on that as well. So I'm looking for a green candle, but it's got to be a particular green candle. Kind of something like this, showing some kind of strength. Hopefully it has a little wick at the top and fairly no tail at the bottom. A little bit of wick at the top shows me that going up, and they're pulling back slightly. Look for them to go up again and then pull back slightly, creating candle after candle like that. So there's SPY on the 10-minute chart. Targets today got a measured move target of close to 621, 621.50. All right, and that measured move is calculated by taking this low right there up to that high. Okay. And then we just duplicate that box. All right, show you how I do it. And then slap it in underneath there. So that brings us up to right about 621.50. I would go with 621.50 just to be conservative. So right up about 621.50, 621.80. All right, that is a measured move target for today. If they don't hit it today, they probably hit it tomorrow morning. We'll see. We have a short week this week, all right? We only have 4 days. We're off on Friday. So options are going to expire on Thursday. All right, let's take a look at the 2-hour chart. 2-hour chart shows a 2-hour uptrend. Let's look at the daily chart. We have a daily uptrend. Notice the 3 on top of the 8. Friday's candle, higher low, higher high, closing over a bullish trap over the 17 EMA, over the all-time, look at this, the all-time high anchored VWAP. My preferred setup is a 10-minute uptrend over VWAP, inside of a 2-hour uptrend, inside of a daily uptrend, inside of a weekly uptrend, inside of a monthly uptrend, all over the all-time high anchored VWAP. That's the preferred setup, all right? It's very rare when all of that lines up together at the same time. So that's my preferred setup, and we've been trading that setup pretty much ever since this low right here, all right? Little breakout of the consolidation over the consolidation. So price is looking good. Price moving up, consolidating over prior consolidation, and now breaking out again. Okay, so SPY is looking fantastic. I'm expecting SPY to reach probably 555, 655. All right, we'll see how high it wants to go, but that's the first target. Second target brings us up to 734. We'll see what happens. All right, so this is SPY on the daily chart. If we look at this with the quad lines on there, we can see price action is up at the top of quadrant 4. Price made an all-time new high on Friday. Let me just say this, it doesn't get any better than that. Okay, whenever price is making a new all-time high, you know it's bullish, all right? It's in an uptrend. It's making higher lows or higher highs and higher highs, closing over bullish traps and over the 17. So fantastic job for SPY, getting the job done, making a new all-time high. QQQ also made a new all-time high on Friday. Okay, so this doesn't get any better than that. FNGU is right here, almost at it, almost making a new all-time. Definitely challenging the all-time high. Let's see how close we are. The high there is 24.52. The high here for Friday was 24.44. So 6 cents away from making actually 7 cents away from making a new all-time high. You can see price action, higher low, higher high, closing over the trap, over the 17, up in quadrant 4, over the uptrend line, over the all-time high anchored VWAP. This is bullish. All right, FNGU. Let's take a look at Diamond Dow. Diamond Dow, higher low, higher high, closing over a bullish trap, over the 17, up here in quadrant 4. That is bullish up there. Look at the consolidation, holding, moving up, holding the higher ground. That's always bullish when you see price do that. I like it. You can see price moves up and then over to the right, and now we're getting a breakout. Okay, that's bullish. That's very bullish. All right, so price action for Diamond Dow. Higher low, higher high, over a bullish trap. That's always bullish. Over the 17, always bullish. And over the all-time high anchored VWAP and moving up is always bullish. Got higher lows, higher highs. That's an uptrend. That's bullish as long as it continues to move up. There's Diamond Dow. Let's take a look at the last one here on the Fab 5. IWM. Look at IWM. IWM makes a new rally high. Okay, gotta figure this is the rally from the bottom down here. New rally high for IWM. Not a new all-time high, but a new rally high. I'll take it. Higher low, higher highs. That's an uptrend. That's bullish as long as it's moving up. Closing over a bullish trap over the 17. That's bullish. Over the all-time high anchored VWAP. That's bullish. Getting close to breaking into the upper third. All right, up there is bullish. Right now, we're just neutral. Again, you move down and you give it up, you're just neutral. Okay, you move up and you give it up, you're just neutral. When you move up and hold that higher ground, that's when you're bullish. Or when you move down, give it up and more, That's bullish. So we're getting close here for IWM. Looking good. All right, so there's IWM on the daily chart. That's bullish. All right, let's take a look at technicals. T2122, we spent the day in the overbought zone, made an appearance inside the buy zone, and rallied our way back to the overbought zone at the end of the day. T2123, bullish gap up, never got filled by the bears. Huge clue right there. Bullish gap doesn't get filled by the bears. Yeah, you know, it's probably a good chance we're going higher. That is very bullish. Anytime you see bullish gaps not getting filled by the bears, that's always bullish. You can see consolidation over prior consolidation. That's always bullish. We'll take a peek at that. You can see consolidation right through here. And then we've got consolidation over prior consolidation. All right. And now you can see we're getting another breakout for possibly more consolidation over prior consolidation. Here's a prior all-time high. That's a prior all-time high. Look how price action took out both prior all-time highs. Took it a while to get it done, but hey, they got it done. Ever since the mid-May all the way to the end of July, so took them about 45 days to wipe out these two prior all-time highs. Like to see them get up there and consolidate over the both of them. Price action is looking good. All right, on T2123 15-minute chart. You can see price making higher lows. Here's a low. That's a higher low. There's a high. There's a higher high. 15-minute chart is in an uptrend. We haven't made any lower lows. So there's recently. T2123 15-minute chart is bullish. All right, you've got consolidation over consolidation. Look at these bullish gaps that aren't getting filled by the bears. That's showing you right now who's in control. Bulls. All right, because they're not filling bullish gaps. The bears aren't filling bullish gaps. So that's showing you bulls are in control. T2123, that's the 15-minute. We're going to hit the same chart with the 3-bar. 3 more green candle bars yesterday. Look at the space opening up now between the 17 EMA and the price action candles. Looking fantastic. Up over this 200 SMA and moving up is always bullish. Taking out a prior all-time high is always bullish. Price action moving up and making higher lows and higher highs. Here's a high. They made a higher high. That's a three-bar uptrend right there. We call this the 3-bar chart. So there's a 3-bar chart is in an uptrend. We love that. As long as it's moving up, that's bullish. Okay, again, you can see 3 more green candle balls right here, or candle bars to the upside. That's bullish. T2123. Daily chart still in a downtrend, but if they happen to take out, see those green ones up there? If they happen to, take out that high up there, they will negate the daily downtrend. I think they can do it. I really do. Price action has been fantastic. So up there, they're very close to taking out that high. That will negate the daily downtrend, and that will convert the daily uptrend. All right, so on the daily chart, they still have not made a higher high. But hey, let's face it, price is not moving down. It's been moving up consistently ever since these lows down here. Okay, so there's T2123. Let's look at FNGU. FNGU, oh, look at this pre-market action. Consolidation at the highs, and then bust out and more consolidation at the highs. Hey, let me just say, consolidation over prior consolidation. That's bullish. Look for the market and the indexes to go higher this morning. All right, as in new all-time highs again, especially QQQ and SPY. Okay, there's FNGU. 15-minute chart. 15-minute chart. You can see green from the beginning of the day till mid-afternoon. And then we had a little 6 martini lunch. I think they overdid it. Then they came back and bought it all back up. All right. And closed at the near the high of the day at the end of the day. Bullish move. Really bullish move. And then consolidate flat, holding that higher ground into the close, only to gap up the following trading day and hold that higher ground. This is bullish. FNGU, 15-minute chart, up over this 200 SMA. That's bullish and moving up. You can see up over the the all-time high anchored VWAP. That's bullish as long as it's moving up. Price action over the uptrend line. That's bullish. FNGU 15-minute chart looking fantastic. Higher lows, higher highs. That's an uptrend. This is bullish. Everything is giving you bullish clues. Look at this bearish gap, bullish gap up that didn't get filled. That's bullish. Another bullish gap up that didn't get filled by the bears. Another bullish gap up that didn't get filled by the bears. This is showing you. Look at this. Moving up, holding the higher ground. That's bullish. Everything is showing you bullish control by the bulls. All right? Everything is showing you that. Pullbacks, most likely for me, are going to be buyable. I'm going to look for 3 minute, 5 minute uptrends to develop, and that's when I want to strike. As soon as I see 3 and 5 minute uptrends reverse. In other words, the 3 crosses back up over the 8 on the 3 or the 5. Look for those reversals on those pullbacks, only to as opportunities to reload for price to go head back up towards the highs. Okay, FNGU looking fantastic this morning. All right, there's the 15-minute chart. We'll look at a few other products. Let's take a look at XLE. All right, XLE moving up, giving it up. Okay, that makes it neutral. It has been making higher lows and higher highs. That puts it in an uptrend, but it's still failing to hold that higher ground. They held it up here for about 5 days. The next, usually on the 5th day, you get a nice breakout. Instead, they got to break down. So, excuse me. Moving up and giving it up here, all right, for XLE. Price action, lower high, inside day, that's a lower high, higher low. Closing under a bearish trap, that's bearish. Closing under the 17, that's bearish. Closing under the all-time high anchored VWAP, I'm going to call that neutral because they just attacked it. All right, they could get back up there. Closing under downtrend line 1, bearish. Closing over downtrend line 2, that's bullish. Again, making higher lows and higher highs is bullish, but they keep giving up the higher ground, and they move up and they give it up. All right? Same thing they did here. Notice they moved up, and then they gave it up, and it took them about 2 to 3 weeks, almost from mid-May, almost into first week of June, before they finally decided to head back up here and challenge the prior high. Okay, so that's XLE. This is our energy sector. All right, so just neutral here. Not in the lower third, not in the upper third. Just neutral, acting a little bit bullish. Preferably, I kind of stay away from this. Not bullish enough for me to get involved in. What I do like is the financials. And they are going to have earnings announcements, I think, soon here. So keep an eye on those financials. Take a look at USO. Okay, here's petroleum crude oil. Again, you can see here's the geopolitical hype. And then when the hype comes out, you go up and you give it up. We're right back here at neutral. Still in an uptrend with that higher low. See, this is a low, higher low. And we got the higher high. Notice, failed to hold the higher ground. We're back up on top of this 3-year high anchored VWAP. That's It's kind of bullish, all right? It's more neutral than it is bullish, all right? Only because they had such great advancements and they gave it all up. I do like it to see if they could consolidate on top of this. That would show me consolidation over prior consolidation, and that's always a bullish environment. See, there's some consolidation through there. If they could hold this area, that would be bullish. We'll see what they can do. All right, right now, again, they're not in the upper third. They're not in the lower third. So they're still just kind of neutral through here. Again, you move up, you give it up, you're just neutral. All right, it's when you move up and you hold that higher ground. You move up, all right, hold the higher ground like this. That's bullish. Okay, they just failed to hold that higher ground for more than 5 days. Okay, so that makes them just neutral right there. All right, if they go up, give it up and more, that's going to make them bearish. Again, they're not in the upper third and they're not in the lower third. So they're right in here, and that's just neutral area right through there. Okay, so that's USO. Take a look at UNG. UNG started a new downtrend on Friday. Bullish candle though. Price action, higher low, higher high, closing over bearish trap, but under the 17. Over the bearish trap is bullish, but under the 17 is bearish. Closing under the 12 or 18-month high anchored VWAP. Okay, so that's kind of neutral right there. Price action is in the lower third. Well, yes, in the lower third, so that makes it bearish. All right. Again, they move up and they keep failing to hold the higher ground. Notice they got up here and then they gave it up. And they got up here and then they gave it up. And then they got up here and then they gave it up. All right? This is bearish or neutral. And they're down in the lower third, so that's bearish. All right? So you move up, give it up. That's neutral. So that puts you right back into the bearish territory down here in the lower third. If we look at price action, here's a low right here, and they made a lower low. That's a downtrend on UNG, breaking the uptrend line right here, or spiking it anyways. All right, so here's UNG, just bearish right now. You know, again, failing to hold the higher ground, making lower lows. That's a downtrend. UNG just struggling here to stay bullish. All right, so UNG still in a downtrend, starting a new downtrend, still in a downtrend today, just failing to hold the higher ground, also failing to hold the lower ground too. Look at them move down and give it back up. They're right back at the 18-month high anchored VWAP. Okay, so that makes them just neutral through here. You can see price action this morning. Over here to the right, you can see him back down here in the lower third. That makes him bearish, UNG. All right, let's take a look at gold and silver. Gold starts a new downtrend. They got a low here. They made a lower low. Price action is a lower high, lower low, closing under a bearish trap. That's bearish under the 17, bearish under the all-time high anchored VWAP. That's neutral. Price action up in quadrant 4 is always bullish. They are moving up. They have moved up and they've held this higher ground for May, June, and now for April, May, June, and they're starting to work on July. All right, so that's bullish up there in quadrant 4. All right, looking for a breakout, maybe a pullback and a sling up. We'll see what happens. Got a triple top here. Probably going to go test these lows one more time. If they decapitate the inverse head and shoulders head, look out below. They're probably coming back to test the uptrend line. So there's GLD. Let's take a look at silver. Silver's in an uptrend, holding the higher ground. Quadrant 4. That's bullish. You can see the higher low. You can see the higher high. That's an uptrend. And they're moving up and they're holding the higher ground. Okay, so silver, bullish. up here in quadrant 4, up over this. This is a 12-year high anchored VWAP. Silver now at a 12-year high. Not the all-time high, but a 12-year high. Silver on the daily chart, holding up in quadrant 4. That's very bullish. Let's take a look at SMH. SMH attacking the all-time highs. That's bullish. Okay, you can see up over the all-time high anchored VWAP, making higher highs and higher lows. There's the all-time high. This is Friday's price action. Darn near making an attack on that all-time high. Darn near taking it out. So there's SMH. So we got semiconductors are bullish. XLK makes a new all-time high. Okay, doesn't get any better than that. That was the prior all-time high. Here's the new all-time high made Friday. Again, that's bullish. It doesn't get any better than that. Let's take a look at XLF. Keep an eye on XLF breaking out of the consolidation. You can see price action. All right, has moved up. Okay, it's moved up and then over to the right, now breaking out. Okay, keep an eye on those financials. They're looking really fantastic. They'll be reporting within a few weeks here. Financials looking good. Holding up in quadrant 4, that's bullish. Higher lows and higher highs is an uptrend. That's bullish. Up over the all-time high anchored VWAP, that's bullish. Again, moving up, holding the higher ground. I say this over and over. This is bullish, all right? Look for the bullish breakout. Look for some financials to make some new all-time highs soon. This week, next week, the following week, all right? These guys are probably getting hyped up for earnings. Financials looking good. And let's just face it, okay? When you see the market making new all-time highs and you've got investment banking, well, you know investment banking's making money if the indexes are up at new all-time highs, all right? Because whenever the indexes go up and are in bullish uptrends and making new all-time highs, the investment banking, that always benefits investment banking. All right, so XLF looking fantastic. As well as home prices moving up, kind of stalling a little bit. But anyways, as long as they can write loans and invest in securities that just take their portfolios higher, XLF should be looking fantastic this week. I would expect within 2 or 3 weeks here, XLF making new all-time highs on the XLF, especially with the recovery that we had after this big dip. You can see obviously Wall Street bought the dip, and I would expect them to want to take it up twice as high. We'll see what happens. All right, but I'm telling you, financials looking good, holding that higher ground for 2 months straight. Now starting to break out to new rally highs, not new all-time highs, but look, new rally high made on Friday. That's bullish, all right? That's really bullish. Look at this bullish gap up. Again, not filled by the bears. Who's in control? The bulls are, all right? XLF, bullish right there. Let's take a look at IYT. Here's our transports. Transports making new rally highs, not quite, okay? Transport's been a little bit laggard here, okay? So maybe if we can get some shipping going on, some products getting stocked on the shelves, but challenging the rally high on Friday. All right, it's got up there. Let's see what that high is. That high is 68.48. That high is 68.10. This high right here, 68.44. What do we say, 48 right there? Yeah, 44. That's a high over that red candle. This high, 68.57. And this high, 68. Come on, baby. 68.46. Okay, so not too far from printing a new rally high here in the transports. And that's fantastic. Anytime you see transports up in the upper third, all right, notice they're in the upper third of the quadrant lines. Okay, so that's bullish up there in the upper third. Okay, making higher lows, making higher highs, that's bullish. We're up over this all-time high anchored VWAP and moving up. That's bullish. In the upper third, bullish. Moving up, holding the higher ground. Not quite in quadrant 4, that's the preferable zone, but they are moving up and holding the higher ground. Now they're finally breaking into the upper third. This is really bullish. We've got the whole trinity, all right, is in an uptrend, bullish, and making new rally highs, if not new all-time highs. And the trinity is the technology sector or the semiconductors, all right, and then you got the financials, which are looking fantastic. Anytime the market makes new all-time highs, especially the indices, all right, you know those financials are making some money on that because they're invested in it as well. And then you've got, well, they're the ones that really make new all-time highs. And then you've got the IYT transports now turning bullish. That's showing us that products are getting sold off the shelf and restocked. You know, shipping is replenishing all of that. Shipping and trucking is replenishing all of those products that are getting sold off the shelf. That's huge. That's bullish. People and personnel and equipment are getting moved around the country to start new projects. That's bullish, all right? If we got a rate cut, let me just say, we could see a big pop in the market. We've got a lot of catalysts out there that could really juice the market much higher, all right? Some of them, peace in the Middle East is huge. Like to see Ukraine, Russia come to an end. Maybe some decent trade deals. All right. All of this is on the table to juice the market up higher, maybe up to 650 on SPY, maybe up to 700 on SPY. We'll see. Everything is looking fantastic. We may start to consolidate underneath 620 on SPY for a while until we get some of that good juice come in, or that good news that will help juice the market up. Okay, it's going to be another 30 days before we get a rate cut decision. So they're looking for 2 more rate cuts by the end of the year. Inflation kind of reared its head up out of the sand, so it might take us more than 30 days. We'll see. All right, maybe we can get some really good economic data. All right, but things are looking fantastic for the indexes to move even higher. So there's IYT. Let's take a look at the economic package. All right, and we'll start off with the dollar. Okay, I'm going to just back off here. You can see where the dollar is, 97.34. The last time we were at 97.34 was back in 2022. All right, so this is like a 3-year low. All right, that's a 3-year low for the dollar. And anytime we've got weaker dollar, all right, that makes our goods and services more affordable when we go on the global markets and try to sell our goods and services to foreign countries. It makes the conversion rate easier for them to purchase ours because they got to pay us in US dollars. That means they have to convert their currency to ours. And if we have a rich dollar, it's going to cost them more of their currency. So having a weak dollar benefits, it doesn't benefit the consumer, but it does benefit the investor, because that helps global sales. Of course, global sales bring in more revenue. More revenue brings in, hopefully, more earnings. And you know what more earnings do? they give you a higher price per share. Okay, so US dollar in a downtrend. You can see we broke major support right through here. Okay, this was major support, was all of this movement up above this. And we broke major support, and we are in a bear flag underneath and now heading lower. This is fantastic. All right, for the investment community, all right. For the consumer, it sucks. All right, I get it. Because it's going to cost the consumer more of their hard-earned money to purchase goods and services, all right? But for the investor, it's fantastic because it's going to bring in more revenue. It's going to open up new markets as long as there's some global peace going on and people aren't in conflicts or threatening each other, okay? This is fantastic having the dollar in a bear flag and in a downtrend, all right? So there's US dollar, all right? I foresee really good stuff for the USA in the near future if we could get some. And then again, we got the big, beautiful bill on the table, all right? And I guess J.D. Vance came in to cast the final vote for that. So if we get the big, beautiful bill, we could see the market get juiced up here, all right? That would be some new projects, maybe some roads and bridges getting repaired. So keep an eye on that, all right? That big, beautiful bill getting passed. I don't know if they got it passed, but I heard if J.D. Vance came in, that means he wanted to break the Senate tie. Now, I don't know if that was a preliminary vote or what that was, but we'll find out soon here, okay? So there's U.S. dollar in a downtrend, in a bear flag. Let's take a look at Max Pain. Max Pain for today, 598. I don't think we're going to get that low, okay? That's a tall order, right? That would be a huge, I think we're at 517 now. That would be a $20 dip. And that would be a huge red candle. That would be a huge red flag if we got to 598. I don't think we're going to get there. Put the call ratio, we do have about 1.7 puts to each call, and that's for the options that expire today. Again, wait for those 3, 10-minute, 5-minute uptrends on these pullbacks to reload for another trip back up towards the highs, all right? Don't wait for confirmation, all right? Wait for a price to come in and reverse, all right? Don't try to pick the bottom, all right? Wait for that confirmation for price to reverse on these pullbacks. SPY getting a pullback now at 617, well 616.98 right now. So nice little pullback. Look for that 3-minute uptrend. All right, economic calendar for today. Chicago PMI at 945. Dallas Fed Manufacturing Survey, that's 10:30, and then that's it. Tomorrow, Mr. Powell's going to speak at 9:30, just before the market opens. PMI Manufacturing, 9:45. ISM Manufacturing Index, 10 o'clock. Construction Spending, 10. Jolts, 10, and then that's it for the rest of the day. Wednesday, MBA mortgage applications is 7. Challenger job cut report at 7. ADP employment report, 8:15. Petroleum report at 10:30. Thursday, remember Friday we're off. Thursday, employment situation at 8:30. That will probably be a market mover. If employment looks good on the employment situation, all right, you could see a really big pop, all right, because that means everybody's getting paid, the majority of the country is put to work, and people are going to be spending their money, all right? So watch that employment situation. That's going to be a market mover on Thursday. International trading goods and services, 8:30. Jobless claims, 8:30. PMI composite final, 9:45. Factory orders, 10 o'clock. ISM services index, 10 o'clock. And a gas report at 10:30, okay? Remember, options are going to expire on Thursday because Friday we're closed, all right? The main event, I want to say it'd be Mr. Powell speaking, but unless we've got some trade deals completed, Mr. Powell is going to be actually kind of powerless, because we need trade deals, we need finalized, we need certainty when it comes to tariffs, all right? Because if we get more tariffs, that's going to just cause more unconventional inflation, all right? It'll be non-conventional inflation. We don't want that, all right? And he has to try to figure out what's going on, all right? Because he doesn't want to lower rates only to have inflation spike up again, all right? And inflation already spiked up last week, all right? So he's kind of powerless until we get some trade deals done. Haven't got anything done yet. Haven't heard any news on it, all right? So the main event this week is going to be the employment situation at the last day of the month, all right? So that, I'll bet that comes in really good, and I'll bet we get a nice spike up on July 4th. All right, so that's it. Stock market closed early on the 3rd, 1 p.m. Yes, Fred, I believe so. That will be nice. All right, so that's it for me this morning, okay? I'm going to render my video. Again, wait for those 5-minute, 3-minute uptrends, all right, to develop before you go picking the bottom of the pullbacks, all right? Wait, all right? But there's going to be lots of good opportunity, and I really foresee market moving up to 620, maybe even 621, maybe by the end of day today or possibly tomorrow afternoon. All right, I see a measured move up there. So we'll see what happens, okay? So I'll see you guys in about 35 minutes and we'll get the market open. Again, we're looking for a green candle. No topping wicks, all right? Anything with more wick than body and tail, not our candle. If it's red, it's not our candle, all right? If it's a top spinning top, that's not our candle. If it's a doji, that's not our candle. Okay, we're looking for a particular green candle, all right? For a continuation of that 10-minute uptrend, all right, that we left off with on Friday, all right? I'll see you guys in about 35 minutes. Again, thank you everybody out there in podcast land, digital land, cyber land, especially you, Bob Jordan, love it. Thank you so much for all the kind comments from everybody. Thank you for following me. Thank you for the subscriptions. Thank you for liking my content. I try to provide actionable, profitable content every single day for the members and non-members, all right? There's nothing more than pleases me than to see people succeed, all right? Because that's what the BYOB experience is all about, is getting your own financial freedom. And I'm an advocate for freedom. I love it, all right? See you guys in 35 minutes.